Hello, all you wonderful students who decided to actually do what you're supposed to and watch the video. Thank you. Okay, today we're going to be doing video 8.5 and we're going to be covering volume. Excuse Mr. Nelson, he's making lots of noise in the background.
That's right.
Alright, so we're going to be talking about volume. We've got two different figures that are on your paper we're going to be discussing that we will be solving for volume. Volume is three-dimensional. Okay, so these are 3D figures, not two-dimensional anymore. So we've got one more dimension we've got to look at to solve. Alright, so rectangular prism. When you look at this picture, the first one, I'm highlighting the face of the shape or a side of the shape, and that shape is a rectangle, so that I know that this is a rectangular prism because look at the base of this word. Rectangular, so rectangle. Okay, now really what I'm about to highlight in yellow, this is a rectangle too, but it doesn't really look like it because it is slanted, but the reason it's slanted is to show you that it's a 3D figure. So just looking at what's in red will tell you what shape it is. Okay, so we've got a rectangular prism, and we know that the base of the figure is a rectangle. Remember, you write what I write. Rectangle. Okay. The other thing we need to talk about on this is you see three numbers. We've got three different types of dimensions that you have to identify on rectangular prisms, and they are length, width, which we've seen those two before on our 2D figures, but now we also have height. So how tall is it? And height is really how many layers is on the shape. Okay, so how tall is it? Now we've seen height on a triangle, but it wasn't three-dimensional. Okay. Mr. Nelson and we don't argue about this, but we go back and forth about which one we think is the length and the width, and it really, in all honesty, doesn't matter, because when we look at our formula in a minute, you're doing length times width times height, and 11 times 6 is the same as 6 times 11. So do not stress about which one's the length and which one's the width, okay? So I say that the length is 11 yards because it's how long it is. The width would be 6 yards. And the height is obviously how tall it is, so it would be that 7 yards. Okay? So that is the three dimensions you'll be looking at and needing for your formula here in a minute. Alright, go to the next one. Cube. Cube is very similar, except look at the side or the face of this shape. This one is a square. You can also see it's square because look at these three numbers. They're all the same. Okay, so let's pretend on here that they tell us it's a cube, but then they hide where my fingers are hiding the other two numbers, and they only give you a 4. Well, you could assume that these other two are 4 because in a cube, all sides or all dimensions are the same length. Okay, so the base of the figure is a square. We can also put that all dimensions are equal, or the same, or equivalent, whatever you want to say. Okay, and that's because the base is a square and all sides are the same on a square. So let's identify the length, the width, and the height for our cube, and this is super easy when it's a cube. Okay, so length, width, and height is easy because they're all the same. The length is 4, the width is 4, the height's 4. So for what? 4 inches, make sure you label, and that's that. Okay, now I wrote the formulas down here on your notes so that if you get home and you accidentally can't find your star chart, you have them. But they're also on the star chart here. On the star chart, it has its own little section. It's a volume section. This is our three-dimensional section. You see cube, and you go over and you've got your formula of V equals S cubed. Okay, that little 3 means cubed. And then rectangular prism is length times width times height. Okay, so we're going to be using those right now. So, turn your paper over. Alright, first thing, you got to tell me what shape it is in order to find out what formula you're going to use. So, what you want to do is you want to look at the face and see, or the side, and see what shape it is. I can see that that is a rectangle, so my shape is going to be a rectangular prism. My handwriting doesn't fit. Okay, and then the next thing is we want to know the length, the width, and the height for our formula. Okay, length is 10 meters, width is 4 meters, and it is 5 meters tall for the height. Okay, so here's our formula for rectangular prism given on the star chart. Volume equals LWH. 3 letters next to each other means to multiply. Okay, so you're multiplying length times width times height. Okay, we've got our F, our formula. Now we're going to substitute and solve. Okay, and I've told my kids, you have to show your work here. It doesn't go from an S and magically poof into an A. Okay, you have to show your work and your steps. So first we're going to plug in our numbers. We have, for L, we have 10. For width, we have 4, and for height we have 5, and we're multiplying those. Okay, I've got 2 steps here. I've got 2 different multiplication problems, so I'm going to do one thing at a time. Let's do 10 times 4 first. It's on the left. 10 times 4 is 40, and then you can do 40 times 5 is all that's left, so that equals 5 times 4 is 20, and add the extra 0 on, it's 200. Okay, so now I can say that my answer is 200 meters, and it's cubed. Okay, the reason it's the little 3 is because now we have 1, 2, 3 different dimensions we're looking at, length, width, and height. So it's cubed. Okay, the other way you could write it would be 200, and you could actually write it out. You might see this on the Google Doc, hint, hint. Okay, and you might actually see the words cubed. Okay, and the volume up here would be 200 meters cubed. Okay, let's go to the cube. I know this is a cube, first off, because all 3 numbers are identical. Also, if I look at the face of the shape, or the base of the shape, it is a square. So cube. Okay. Y'all have seen those Rubik's Cubes that you have to try and get all the colors the same on the side. Okay, on the same side, that's a cube. All sides are the same. Now, length, width, and height, super easy on a cube because they're all the same. Okay, 6 long, 6 wide, 6 tall. Now let's do our formula. This formula, you've got to be real careful. It's S cubed, or S to the 3rd power, but we're going to rewrite it. This does not mean side times 3. What this means is that this little 3 tells us there are 3 S's being multiplied. So really it's side times side times side. Okay, and yes, I want you to write it out like that so you don't make the mistake of doing times 3. Okay, now let's substitute. Let's use this formula over here. Volume equals side times side times side. I'm going to plug in my 6's. Okay, I've got 2 multiplication problems, so order of operations says 1 on the left first. 6 times 6 is 36, and now I'm left with 36 times 6. If you don't know, come to the side, do the math. Okay, 6 times 6 is 36, carry your 3. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 3 more is 21, so 216. So your volume, your answer is volume equals 216. They were centimeters, and it's cubed. Or you could put 216 centimeters, and you could write the word cubed. Okay? And that answer, we can make it easier. You can just put an arrow up to the answer there. Okay? Make sure you're using FSA when you do the Google Doc. You're going to have a couple of each, rectangular prisms and cubes. Okay, have your notes filled out, complete your Google Doc, and then we will see you in class ready tomorrow. Thank you. Have a good night.